Well, welcome to this edition of the Locker Room Chat, brought to you by the Shanneman Sports Museum of Tacoma, Pierce County, and the Rainier Asphalt and Concrete Company, the #1 asphalt and concrete repair contractor in Tacoma and the Seattle area for quality workmanship and top-notch customer service. Just contact Rainier Asphalt, rainierasphalt.com. Let them know you heard them on the Locker Room Chat. And today we have Steve Whitaker with us, former major leaguer and great storyteller as well. Steve, it is great to see you. Thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's always good to hear from my hometown people. Yeah, I miss all you guys.
Well, speaking of your hometown, let's start there. Tell us what it was like growing up in Tacoma and playing ball.
Well, the Cheney Studs. If it wasn't for the Cheney Studs, I probably would be filling asphalt in the streets of Tacoma. They were, I started out in the Tacoma Boys Club, of course, played all my football, basketball, and baseball there. But as you're getting into sports, anybody that goes back in those times, to become a stud, you went to the big leagues. Ben Cheney was a top-notch guy that sponsored all these teams in all sports. We got the best uniforms. Of course, coming out of Tacoma Boys Club, we had leather helmets. We had, we didn't have any money, so we grinded through, but we had good ball players. Charlie Williams, Dave Williams. I mean, we had some great athletes that come out of that. Larry Laughlin. I mean, so Tacoma Boys Club, we put out some good product, but we had no money for uniforms or anything. So when you were taken by being asked to play for the Cheney Studs, it was like, wow, are you kidding me? And then, as a little leaguer, you just kind of went on from there because we played the best schedules. So we got to play a lot of games, travel first class, and was exposed to the best. So you kind of found out, can you play, can't you play? And I really always give credit to the Cheney Studs.
Do you have any favorite memories playing for the Studs?
We went to the national championship, and, I went to see, I was starting quarterback for Lincoln High School. Going to beat you guys up when the season started, but I went in the summertime to go tell Norm Mayer, who was our coach. I said, hey, I'm with the Cheney Studs. We got a chance to go to the national championship, so I'm not going to go be in school for probably the first 2 or 3 weeks. And we had that jamboree, as you know, we always had that football jamboree. So he got really mad. Started throwing things around his apartment. I mean, I personally went there. It wasn't like I called him. And so when I left, it was like, well, I'm going to go play the best I can with the Cheney Studs and see how far we go. Well, we won the championship. We went all the way back to Battle Creek, Michigan. Won everything. And yes, just like I told them, I didn't start school for 3 weeks. So when I got back, every teacher was a coach, of course. And all the teachers that I had were somehow to do with the coaching staff or close to it. They told me you got to have this, this, and this. And so I just about got, if it wasn't for help from another teacher, I would have got, he put me on the third team of the football team. I'm no longer starting. I was just a scrum. And he made it known that, you did me wrong. So I just, that was my intro to my senior year, which was not good, to get treated like that when we won the championship. Instead of getting a pat in your back and say, hey, good job, it was just the opposite. So I left my senior year, was not good. Yeah, it wasn't good. And, back in those days, we didn't have a draft. We had scouts that they went through the weeds, just trying to pick out talent. And one of the stories that how this guy found me, my mom was underneath one of the bleachers at Heidelberg Field watching during the rainy day, but we had to play during the rain or we wouldn't play at all. So the Eddie Taylor, who I love, was the scout underneath the stands, also hiding underneath the bleachers. And my mom looked over there and said, who are you watching? He says, no, he looked at my mom and said, who are you watching? She said, my son, Steve Whitaker. And he said, I'm here looking at your son, Steve Whitaker. So they were both hiding underneath the bleachers. And because my mom was a great fan, especially the Mariners. She just fell in love with the Mariners and Lou Piniella and all those guys. But that was pretty much an inkling that I'm being looked at. But the scouting at Lincoln High School didn't give me good grades. They said, you don't want this guy. He's not the kind of guy you maybe want. So it was kind of funny leaving my senior year to go play baseball. Yeah, I left with a lot of fanfare for the Yankees signing me, but didn't know how far it's going to take it.
Was it an easy decision signing with the Yankees?
Well, when you live in a neighborhood like I did on 50th and Thompson on the south side of Tacoma, you have a guy drive up in a big white Cadillac with a fedora hat on and his typewriter. And he came to the front door. I had my family sitting in our little living room, and he's saying, "I'm here to sign your son to a New York Yankee contract." And he embellished it like you can't believe. And no, I would have signed for nothing, of course. So it was, it was a different time back then. Just to be recognized was something fantastic. But again, you got kind of like introduced to good things with the Cheney studs, because a lot of my ball player friends on the studs were former college, maybe a little professional baseball. So I was always playing up. I was the youngest playing with 30-year-olds or 25 or 27-year-olds. And I was like 15, 16 years old. So it pretty much, you could either play or you couldn't play. But I found out I could play.
Yeah, how was the transition from Lincoln to the minors?
Didn't know, but it only took 2 weeks in spring training. I think they had 150 number on my back, taped to my old Yankee uniform in spring training. They didn't, nothing was fancy. Haines City, Florida. Rooming with guys now we can laugh because I talk to them all the time. Guys like Roy White was there, and Stan Bonson, and Frank Fernandez, and Mel Stilemeyer, and all these guys who were signed by the same scout. Eddie Taylor signed to Steve Klein, Roger Epos. These guys all came through, were from the area that I grew up in, and signed by Eddie Taylor. But within 2 weeks, I'm looking around and I'm saying, you know what? Because you don't know. I said, I think I can do this, because if I failed, I wasn't coming home anyway. I was going to be a bartender in maybe Haines City, Florida. I don't know, but I wasn't going to come home as a failure. But I remember coming back to the motel that they all put us in, and we'd be sitting there saying, "Hey, Roy, I hit that ball pretty good." He says, "Yeah, it was foul, but you hit it really good." But we were trying to help each other maintain some sense of accomplishment. Because they were releasing guys every day. I mean, you come into the clubhouse and the guy with 150 number on his back was released, and then I'm a number 145. So when's my turn? Are they going to release me and send me home? It was rough. So you had to kind of like get the confidence with your friends that you're meeting now. Oh yeah, Whit. God, that was a good throw you made from right field. Oh, yeah, that swing was good. You struck out, but God, you had some good swings. So it was, that's the way it was, which is okay, It
was a pretty quick trip, too, for a high school kid through the minors. You end up in the minors in 62, and then in 66, you make your debut.
Yeah, and if you really look at my baseball cards, which are a lot of them, you think I played 20 years, but I would go to a town. I mean, like, for example, they sent me my first year. I ended up in Harlan, Kentucky for a period of a couple of weeks, and they had a gunfight, just like the old Tombstone. They had a gunfight in the middle of town, and they ended up getting me out of there. I guess they liked me enough. They said, "Well, we'll leave the other kids here, but we like Whitaker. We're going to get him out of there before he gets shot." True story. They were running stills and running old hooch up and down the mountaintops, and somebody got in a gunfight in the middle of town, so they sent me out to Shelby, North Carolina, and I still laugh about that because again, along the way, I met some good people, major leaguers that finally made it. That when we do get together, we laugh about stuff like that.
So August 23rd, 1966, Yankee Stadium, you make your major league debut in a Yankees uniform. What do you remember about that day?
Well, if you really go back before that actual time I was called up, I started the season in Columbus, Georgia. That was my second trip there because the year before that, we're in the service all the time. The Yankees got me and a few other players in the Army Reserve. So your seasons were kind of cut up from you had to do your month of summer duty and your which was great because it's better than getting shot up in Vietnam. But we all had to do those war games and stuff, and so you're going to miss a lot of games. You're going to miss, it's not like you're going to play 150 or 160 games. You're going to miss probably 60 games in a year. But I got off to a real good start in Columbus, and I think I was hitting 22 home runs right away with about, I don't know, you can look it up, 200 at bats, let's say. I just went off the charts and was really doing well. And Jack Reed was my manager, who I really loved. And he took a liking to me. So they made a trade with the Toledo Mud Hens, AAA ball club. And they said, we're going to send 4 players to Columbus for your Whitaker. That's how they did it. One, me. So they, which was a big pat in my back to begin with. I'm going to AAA, God, I thought actually I was going to go to AAA out of spring training, but that didn't happen. So now I go to AAA, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I'm with a lot of my buddies. They started to see it in AAA, so I go to AAA, and right off the bat, I'm hitting like 7-8 home runs within 2 weeks. So now Whitey Ford hurts his arm. I didn't know this, but Whitey Ford hurts his arm. There was a space open for me, and I didn't know this. I go to the ballpark in Toledo, just, going to play a game, and all of a sudden, Lauren Babe, who was our manager, and I loved him to death, he called me in his office, and he said, and I've been with him for a few times. He managed me in a few different teams, and he said, he said, what are you doing? Because I was unpacking, getting my gear on, ready to get ready for the practice for the game tonight. He said, get your bags packed. You're going to New York. And I still get emotional about it because he was so excited for me. And I get out, so they got me somebody taken to the airport. I've never been to New York in my life. And so as we're going to New York, we didn't have these cell phones. I can't call anybody. It has to come from you guys, the news people, if it gets out at all. And I arrive in Yankee Stadium, by way of LaGuardia. They taxed me to the stadium. And who was the first guy to greet me when I went to the locker room, which was amazing. I mean, crummy, Yankee Stadium, are you kidding me? I was nervous, but Roger Maris, he said, get your gear on. He comes in, he said, what took you so long? Because they've been following me. And they saw how my career was up, down, hitting all these home runs, but, other things are happening in his life too. So what's this guy doing? And I knew them in spring training, but, they're Roger Maris and Mickey. You don't just run with them. You don't, so you're kind of like sitting in the background. And obviously he took a liking to me. So he said, get yourself some gear on. I'm going to walk you around the stadium. So he takes me from the clubhouse, of course, to the dugout, to the on-deck circle, to home plate. Because we're both left-hand hitters, of course. And he says, let's take a walk. So we go walk around right field, center field, which is where the monuments were. We took a little shot and talked around the monuments about the lighting of the stadium at night, daytime. Go to left field, come all the way back to the home plate, and then the dugout and into the clubhouse. And this guy was awesome. He just really took everything that he could say in that short period of time to try to indoctrinate me, because you're going to play. He said, I'm out of here, but you're going to play. Because he knew he was probably not going to be there too much longer. So when I come back to the clubhouse, of course, Mickey, Chet, Trash, Pepe, they all came over and congratulated me and welcome to the big leagues. And the first 2 weeks, if you look it up, I just went off. I mean, that was my year. That was my, I really say my career was 2 weeks, my first 2 weeks in the big leagues. Basically, it was, because I was even hitting balls to left field on line drives. I hit triples to left field. I never hit a ball to left field in my life. And yet, when I was there, for some reason, I didn't want to fail. That I let the ball get a little deeper, and I get on top of it just to drive it. Because when I was other places, I just want to hit home run. You strike out, I don't care. I'm going to hit a home run. But up there, I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to strike out. I didn't want to, so I was doing awesome without trying to pull the ball in Yankee Stadium. I was hitting it all over for success. And then when I got comfortable, said, God, this is not easy, but I can do this. Then I started doing my old way, started trying to pull everything. Now you're talking about big league pitchers. They know better. They said, oh, he wants to do this? Well, I'll give him a little this, and let him ground out to second base. I'm a hitting coach. I was with the White Sox as a hitting coach for a while. So I know all that stuff now. But back then, I was so boneheaded that I just tried to defy logic and just tried to go against the grain. And Mickey and all those other guys would come up and tell me, man, come on. You're kind of like I was when I came up. You got to settle down. You belong here. Just do what you do best and try not to overkill something. Just, you're here for a reason. So just try to relax. And I did. I tried to relax a little bit more, but God, that cozy spot in Yankee Stadium, you want just a little twister, get it in there. So, no, it was great teammates. Bobby Cox, of course, was one of our teammates. We had Stottlemyre, all these guys. But Mickey and Roger took me under their wing and really made me feel comfortable up in Manhattan. Yeah, it was good.
That had to be an incredible feeling. You made your debut against the Angels. So the next series against the Tigers, you hit a home run in every one of those games. You hit a grand slam off Mickey Lolich. You had 6 homers in 16 games.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that feeling.
And the papers were even better than that. The papers made me feel like where'd this guy come from? So one of the first things Ralph told me when I met him that same afternoon after my walk with Roger is Ralph Houk. He calls me in his office and he said, "You're going to play every day." He said, "You're starting tonight, of course." I said, "Who's pitching?" He says, "Dean Chance." And I said, "Dean Chance? He's a Cy Young guy." Yeah. He said, "Yeah." He said, "So what?" He said, "You're here. You're with us now." Okay. So the very first time at bat, if I have a picture in my office, I should have brought it in here because that's where I'm at right now, but it shows me swinging at a ball that was probably 45 feet in the ground. Dean Chance, first pitch, it hits way above. I'm going for it all. And it's so funny that I chuckle because that's why I love the picture so much. I was swinging no matter where the ball was. And sure enough, but he said, "You're going to play every day." And Roger, again, knew that. So, because we traded him the next year to St. Louis or over the winter. But Ralph was just super. But he said, "Don't read the papers. Don't take care of yourself because this town can eat you up. Do not read the papers and try to come ready to play every day." Well, I read the papers and I did go out a lot. So what does that mean? So bonehead me, I didn't listen too much. And probably my teachers at Lincoln would tell you the same thing. But no, it was, that's life. It's laughable now, but I think I could have gave it a better shot. Yeah, by being a little bit better to myself.
Well, for what I saw, the papers were calling you the next Mickey Mantle, so no pressure.
No pressure, but you know what? It wasn't. I mean, the only thing I think we did, we used to wear our uniform with the button down here, and when you ran, you had a little bit of that Mickey swagger. I think a lot of us that was in such awe of both Mantle and Maris, and of course, all of them, Elston Howard, Bobby Richardson, Cleve Boyer, Tony Kubek, all these guys were great ball players and very nice people. I get to see them a lot, the ones that are still alive, because we do these fantasy camps, Yankee fantasy camps. So we get together and see each other still a lot. And they were just great people. And, they were getting old, so the team wasn't gonna perform like they did in the past. They expected guys like myself, Roger Repos, Bobby Mercer, to kind of carry the load, the new guys on the block to try to carry the load. And that's the only thing I regret, because I think a lot was expected of me, and I really think I let a lot of that down, because I didn't. Mickey took me under his wing, and we were out. I mean, I was in awe of Mickey. And he invites me to places. He made New York City, look like there was a town of 20 people. I mean, we had the best everything. We go to restaurants. I'm one of his guys. He invited me everywhere. Got me on TV. What was it? Not the dating game, but the match game. He got me a week on the match game. I mean, I am doing things that nobody on that team was invited to do it. He invited me. And even Boughton, I think in his Ball 4 book, mentioned, how did Steve get to do this? Or how did Whitaker get on the match game? When I've been here, but Mickey did take a liking to me. And all my memories of him are nothing but fantastic. And in fact, a lot of his passcodes are is Mickey. I'm not going to give you all of it, but that's what it is. He's just awesome. It was an awesome experience. Yeah.
We got to know more about the match game.
The match game, Gene Rayburn. The match game was. I mean, and you got to realize I was afraid to get up in front of. If I was in Lincoln High School and had an English class, I couldn't get up in front of 5 of my best friends without stuttering and looking down the floor and nervous. It took one doing a bar mitzvah for a big group in Manhattan that paid a lot of money, and I was asked to do a speech for them. And I was so nervous going in to do that speech that I was shaking. But then I got to thinking just before I went up, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Those people don't. So the confidence kind of gave me that kind of confidence. Speak in front of 2,000 people or whatever. And after that, I said, you got that kind of money. I'll do these every day of the week. And so that was kind of funny, because I really couldn't talk in front of people. I admit it. No problem today, but back then, no way. I can't do it. So when I got on the match game, I was very talkative, and probably said a few stupid things, but it was fun. Yeah, it was a good thing.
Mickey Mantle, legendary, one of the greatest this game has ever seen. How long did it take for you to get over that? You see him in the clubhouse. It's Mickey Mantle.
Never.
How long till he was just a
Never.
guy?
Never. And we ran together. But I will tell you right now, never. Because going back to spring training, my very first spring training with the Yankees, it was like they put all us newbies at the very end of the clubhouse, and all the real Yankees who've been in World Series, and the Johnny Blanchards, of course, the Whitey Fords, and everybody. They would be pretty much up in the front of the clubhouse. You would find all of us guys lurking, like we're a bunch of freaks looking at these players who are just bigger than life, as they come into the clubhouse, getting ready to put their uniform on to go out and play on the field just like us. So I can't wait to get on the field. So I'm out in the center field, and I want to see Mickey hit. And it was Mickey. I loved all the other players, but I want to see Mickey Mantle actually hit on a field that I'm on, same uniform, and I want to be able to see if I even catch his ball or not. So I got the conversation with Repos or somebody, but some other outfielders, and I had my back half turned, and I heard the crack of this bat, and sure enough, this fly ball is flying up in the air. Didn't look like it's going to go more than 250 feet. It was such a high hit, high fly ball. All of a sudden, I go back. Now I'm at the 300-foot level. Now I go back. I'm at the 400-foot level, and the ball is still going. And that was in Fort Lauderdale Stadium, where we trained. brand new stadium for us. And I'm saying, what in that? I mean, I heard the crack. I didn't see the swing. And I'm saying, I can't believe this. So never did I ever not have that feeling playing in the same field with him. Even when he moved from center field to first base, when we had to move Pepe out to center, and I'm in right, Tommy Tresh is in left, I never ever felt less in awe. He was that person. He didn't try to make you feel like that. Mm-hmm. He was Mickey was very humble, very introverted. Unless he's around a lot of friends, he didn't come out of that shell. He was just Mickey. You could walk the streets of Manhattan, cardigan sweaters, nice pair of slacks on, and it took about 2 seconds for people are going, whoa, that's Mickey Mantle. I mean it. It was just something I'll never, ever, ever forget. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Mickey Mantle story?
I can't. Yeah. I can tell you this. Yeah, I can tell you this one. There's a lot of stories, but I can't. But I got to keep most of it to myself. We did a thing up in where the Army Academy. We did every year. The Yankees had a thing. They would go up there at West Point. Okay, it was big, and God, did they real crowd. So Mickey and I are the only ones living in Manhattan. He lived on Central Palo South. I mean, I'm down 65th and First Avenue on the east side. So he said, "Whit, meet me at my place, and we'll go up together." And I said, "Great." I said, "But Mickey, I'm just a rookie, man. I got to get on the bus with the rest of the play. Whit, don't worry about it, Whit. Just come with me." And so I go to his place. Of course, we had to have a little something before we left his place. When we got in the limo to go to West Point, he had a lot of somethings. And we're on our way to West Point, just the two of us in the limo. Needless to say, we had a couple of this and a couple of that. I am bombed. And I'm just a rookie. And so Mickey he can handle it better than I could, but he was bombed. So Ralph right away looks at the both of us as we got out of the dang limo, and he said, "Mickey, you're here." Like he's taking care of the Mick. Whit, you're playing and you're going out in right field. I could hardly see. But long story short, Mickey did come in, hit a home run to left field. It was kind of like on a football field. They had us at the far end. I hit a home run. One of the coaches said it's the longest one they had at West Point in that particular phase of other teams visiting. And how we both did it, I don't know. But Mickey would not let me forget. He said, "So what's the problem? You hit a home run. I hit a home run. We're happy." So yeah, that's, but Ralph wasn't happy with me. He was very, very not happy with me. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stories about the Mick that, he's just bigger than life. And I keep most of them to myself.
Yeah. Well, as you alluded to, in '67, he moves to first. You become a starting outfielder all season for the Yankees. What was that '67 like, being a starting outfielder for the Yanks?
Again, it was like, I had such a good start with the few games I played in '66 that I was really looking forward to the start of the '67. But if you remember, if you go back in time, they made a couple of trades that kind of disappointed me. How it started out. I'm living in Manhattan. I never went home, so I'm staying up there in the wintertime, doing some speaking and stuff, able to at least make a little living while we're there. And so they make a meeting about our contract. So Lee McPhail was our general manager. "Can you come up to meet me in the office?" And I said, "Absolutely." And everything was nice. I thought that we're going to get some sort of contract done where, come on, we didn't make any money back in those days. So I meet him, and we're clubhouse rats. We're not executives with attorneys on our side going up to somebody's executive suite, but that's where I'm going. Again, nervous because I'm in his office. Okay, so we go up there, and he opens these big gates, doors open. Hi, Steve. How you doing? He said, hey, by the way, can I ask you, what did your father do back in Tacoma, Washington? I said, well, my dad owns a tavern. And he said, did you ever think about maybe being a bartender? And I went, whoa, what is this? What, are you disrespecting me? Why are you saying stuff like that? I went over and closed his door so his secretary couldn't hear us. And I went off a little bit. That was disrespectful. I mean, what, you never played a thing of anything. I'm here to talk about a contract. Come on. I don't like being disrespected here. I'm out of my place anyway right now. I'll be honest with you. All I'm doing, because they did a lot of that negotiating through the papers. I mean, I guess back then it was more money than most people made, but I don't know. Nothing. We didn't make any money. But he did. And then so after that, when I went back to him, I don't think he liked me anymore. So they made a trade, and they got Bill Robinson, who I loved. Bill Robinson was brought over from the Atlanta organization. And so now he's another outfielder to contend with, right-handed. But I think they did that going back to the Army. I'm going to miss. Bill wasn't in the reserves. I was. I was one of the guys on the Yankees that had to go and do their. And again, I'm not complaining. It was like I was very lucky to be in the reserves, and like I said, because my whole company went over. So, but they know that I'm going to miss these 60 games probably in the course of time. So they brought Bill in, and he kind of like both of us didn't really fare too well. I mean, I don't even know what Bill was that year, but I know I was disappointed. I think I hit 11 home runs, I think, and had 50 RBIs. But come on, I'm better than that with 400 at bats. I should have done a lot better than that. But I think it was that little bit of time. You're in, you're out. He's playing now because you've been gone in the service for a month. So you're playing. It was one of those things that I was very disappointed in that whole thing. Yeah, it wasn't. That season doesn't something that I brag about. To be honest with you.
Speaking of the reserves, I saw a picture of you. I think of Fort Lewis.
It was Fort Lewis with Ronnie Say, Bill Murphy, and our pitcher.
Rich Austin.
Huh?
Rich Austin, right?
Rich Austin. Love that man. Yeah. So we were all there together, and Ronnie in the same boat that I was, all of them, Bill and Rich. We were all, in fact, I saw them out in Cheney Stadium a couple years back. They did a little something with us that we threw first pitches or something like that. But yeah, great. But that's what we did. And so Ronnie said he's going to miss some games. Everyone was in the same boat. And so when you're on a team, Major League team, it's going to cut into some thinking that, well, God, let's bring somebody else in. And he's kind of like maybe playing time isn't going to be your thing. I don't know. Because it happened with the Seattle Pilots. Same thing. Seattle Pilots, it turned out worse because I was in fact, that picture, we can bring that same picture in. I was there when I was ready to report to Seattle. They wanted me to go to Vancouver. That was our AAA ball club to get some at-bats. And I said, I'm not going. So I hung out. I was staying in Fircrest with a room with a lot of my buddies I went to high school with. So I got us a place in Fircrest, and we this was kind of nice. And I told my roommates, don't answer the phone. If the Pilots call, don't answer the phone. I'm not here. And I did. I stayed away from the Pilots probably for 3 weeks. So finally, Crissetti calls me. He found out, he got a hold of me. Frank, who I love, he was our coach, of course, at Yankees. He said, Whit, what the hell are you doing? He said, you got to report. You would have been back by now. Bob Lemon's up there. You would love Bob. Just go on up there and get some at-bats, and you'll be right back here. So I did. I mean, with his blessings, and he made it sound okay, everything cool. You'll be all right. I went up there and hit like 7, 8 home runs in a couple of weeks, and they did call me back. But I was very I was non gratis, with after that. And I don't blame him, because when you go AWOL for anybody, that was actually the third time I went AWOL. I went AWOL with the Yankees once, and I went AWOL with the Giants, or Kansas City, excuse me. When the Kansas City drafted me, we had a little something to do with our Margaret Milks wanted us to kind of with our pension. There was a little problem going on. We're fighting for our union. And Mo Drabowski called me up, and I was playing winter ball in Puerto Rico. He said, "Whit, don't report to Kansas City. I know you were selected by them, but we have a thing going. Please don't report." I said, "I can't. I got to be the first guy there. Mo, I went AWOL with the Yankees. I got to be the first guy there. I'm going to have an apple on Cedric Tallis's desk, who was our general manager. I'll put an apple on his desk if I have to, because I got to report right away." He said, "Well, I'm disappointed because, this thing is very important to all of us." So I said, "Okay." He talked me into not reporting. So I'm going back. I'm staying with my girlfriend at the time, but she became my wife, house in Hollywood, Florida. I turned on the television, and who's there? 66 players report to Fort Myers, the Kansas City Royals. 4 players did not. Steve Whitaker, Mo Drabowski, Joe Foy, and Ed Kirkpatrick. Are you kidding me? I finally report 2 weeks later, and Cedric, and we're friends now, or we're friends. He said, "Whit, what are you doing? We wanted you so bad. You were our guy." Another opportunity I screwed up. So that was that. And of course, I'm traded to not even 2 weeks. A week later, I'm traded to Seattle for Pinella. That was it. One red ass for another red ass. That's really how the story came up. It was in the papers. They won because Pinella was a nut playing in Portland in the Pacific Coast League. He did some crazy things. Love that man though. He became a super player, and he's a great guy. Yeah. So,
yeah, I imagine you ran across Lou Piniella a time or two.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The same thing. Those fantasy camps and what have you. Yeah. He's just a really good guy. Yeah.
What was it like playing behind Whitey Ford?
Whitey, God, I got a story on Whitey. Whitey, who up until he passed, he lived right down the street from me here in Fort Lauderdale at the Gall-Wilshire Mile. And we'd see each other from time to time. Not a lot, because he wasn't feeling too well. But whenever there was something where somebody asked, and I was invited to the same thing, to maybe give a speech for charity or some sort of thing, a fundraiser, we got to see each other. And then also the fantasy camps before he started feeling a little bit ill, along with Yogi and that. They didn't participate anymore. But Whitey became our first base coach after he retired completely. And God, I couldn't stop apologizing. We're playing in in Anaheim, and I made it out. I rounded first base, and I did my little toss of our helmet, and it caught the wind. And it went way over his head into the stands. And I'm looking at this. I'm me. That's Whitey Ford. That's disrespect. And that's what I mean about, I would never try to disrespect anybody. And I never could apologize enough for that, because he was such a good man. He was the chairman of the board. Whitey Ford, come on. He had a great career. He was a good person, a great family man, had a great family. So, those are some of the things that I still shake my head on. Who do you think you are, tossing your helmet like that? You go up there and politely give it to him, and hopefully he kicks you in the butt, because that's it just wasn't right. And I still think about that sometimes.
What about teammates with Mel Stottlemyre? Of course, you two had the connection being from here.
Yeah, we roomed together. And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had the best guy a roommate, because back in those days we did have roommates. You didn't have a suite someplace when you're traveling. But Mel, again, super human being, super. And I got really close with him from day one in spring training because of our backgrounds and signed by the same scout. I could have asked him, and these are the regrets that I have today as you look back on your life and career in baseball. And I tell newbies, people are wanting to go to the big leagues, ask questions, get around these guys, find out what they're thinking. You got all this information now, of course, from the all the stats in the clubhouses and the video rooms that these teams have now. Ask him, how would he pitch to me? What would Mel do to me? Well, what he would do, he'd get me out, that's for sure. Because he could, but why didn't I ask? Why didn't I sit next to Mickey and Roger and any of them and say, what about this guy? And I didn't. I just like I never got an autograph. I never asked my teammates for an autograph, ever. Never, ever. That was the no-no for me. But I didn't do it as a kid either. I never asked for autographs. If I could have taken those uniforms to the Seattle Pilots the last night that we were there, I hit the last home run. I would have now that I know what's going on, I would have got a baggie. Hell, I would have got 4 bags and just start throwing uniforms in there, and I'd be a zillionaire today. We didn't do that. I didn't do that. I never took a hat, a jersey of any kind from anybody, and yet I have a guy that calls. He's a collector. And he's been calling me. He kind of stopped over the last couple of years, but up until a couple of years ago, he called me up and he said, "Hey, Whit, I heard that you have a Mickey Mantle bat that he used in a game in Detroit that he hit that 500 home run." And I said, "Yeah, it's not that one because he used Pepitone's bat on that at bat, but I have a bat that he used in the game." He was coming after me. I'll buy it, whatever it costs. You know what these things? I mean, a uniform, a bat, $50,000. It's stupid. But the uniforms for the Seattle Pilots, I get more people asking about stuff from the Seattle Pilots. Hat, a game-worn jersey, a whole uniform if possible. And it's stupid. I have none of it. I have nada. And so, so what? That's the way it is.
That is such the Pilots 1969 is such a unique year in baseball history. Like no other year I think a franchise has had. What do you remember about being part of that just bizarre year?
I tell you, it was the most fun, actual fun, without stress. I mean, you always have stress. You're in a Major League Baseball game, but not that kind. But we had the best, funniest, craziest team that anybody is. You could be the nuttiest guy yourself, and you couldn't put a team together as funny and crazy and just awesome. Didn't win any games, but we had fun. And, I mean, the stories I would like to tell, I can't, but because it's just too bizarre. But we had stuff that to this day, I cry laughing. And especially when you get around guys that maybe were on that team. A couple of years back, the Mariners invited us all up there. I think they're going to do a movie sometime. But they had us up there, maybe it's about 5 years ago. I can't even remember. But they put us up in Bellevue in a hotel, real nice hotel. Did stories every day. Had conferences where people like yourself or writers were able to ask questions. And then they took us down to Mariners Stadium there on the waterfront, and they introduced us out in the field. Just a beautiful thing that the Mariners did. I mean, we sat in the owner's box, all of us. We had introduction on the big screen, and they one by one they had you announced to go out there. It was so first class, and the Mariners. I mean, even then I was kind of worried. Are they going to do something crazy? Because we're older now. There's only a few of us left, what's going to happen on this week? They had us up there for a week, and we all had our wives and girlfriends or whatever. But what's going to happen? It's going to really blow this whole thing out of proportion, because that's the kind of team it was. But it was classy. It worked out. Nothing really crazy happened. But that was a bunch. That was a bunch.
Did you realize at the time that your season would become a book?
Yes. Okay, I'll tell you that story. Okay, so Gene Bromberger, Big Gene, huge man. He was our pitcher, one of our dominant pitchers. And our bullpen, if you remember, 06 Stadium was in the open. You just sat out there on a bench, and everybody's sitting out there. Well, every time we come off a road trip of any kind, or just clubhouse talk, he saw Boughton over there making little notes. And this, I didn't see it because I'm a starter. I'm out in the field or taking infield or whatever, or in the clubhouse. Brobender saw it. And he finally, after, a week of this stuff, he went over and started grabbing stuff out of his hand. What are you doing? And Boughton kind of hid and scurried off with all his notes. Because you're hearing all these stories. I mean, you couldn't help but make a book out of this team. Uh-huh. So the next day, Broadbender comes in with a dart gun about 6 feet long, 7 feet long, a real dart gun that he got or made, and he had darts with nailed darts that would go into concrete and kill you. And he sat there, and Mike Marshall and Boughton were supposedly the genius and the very intelligent people on our team. The rest of us didn't know a thing. We were all dummies. And they were playing chess on that stupid ass seat that we had in our clubhouse, our benches. That clubhouse was another story. So he comes in and starts shooting these darts, starting from the top of those wooden things you hang your clothes in, and started coming down towards their head. And about 2 or 3 darts going into this wood, I mean, it would kill you. They finally, come on, what are you doing, Broadbender? Stop it and get out of here and all that stuff. Finally, they dispersed. And he wanted to really scare these guys. And of course, I don't think he never did put that in his book. I don't think he did. I can't remember because I never really read it, but I don't think he did because it was real. And he meant, because he's coming out with all this stuff. But you know what? It's when you look at it today, it was nothing. What goes on in baseball today or any sports, that was mild. I know Mickey and the Yankee guys hated Boughton for that. But actually, Jimmy was a nice guy. I liked him. He was always nice to me as a kid. Coming to spring training, and so I really had nothing bad to say about Mr. Boughton.
And of course, you have the claim to fame, the last home run in Pilots history. I
did, and like I said, I never. My father owned a tavern, like I said, but he also welded during the day while my mom ran the tavern. So my mom would run the tavern, my dad would get off work and come home and shower and then relieve my mom to close up shop at 1 o'clock at night. So his crew, to get the franchise, they had to make it 25,000 seat stadium. So his crew was hired, or his company was hired to weld and get all the seats in there. My father never saw me play ball as a kid, ever. He might have seen me on TV later on in life, but never saw me personally play baseball. And so he would come there with his crew, and I would wave at him. Then they would get done with work. He'd go over to the white bleachers that were finished, and I'd make sure they got, beer and hot dogs and all that stuff delivered to him. And it was kind of neat because this is the very first time he's actually seen his son play any sport. So, that whole stadium was well, you really look at the history of it, it's all true. The Soriano brothers, I think, bought it on a credit card, didn't they? I don't think they had any money. It was basically a credit card they maxed out. I don't know, because about 2 weeks before the last game when I hit the home run, they were things in the paper, we're not going to get paid. It was probably a month before that. There's bankruptcy, no payment, this and that. So when I hit that home run, that last home run against whoever, I think it was Oakland, I cherished that. I really, when I ran around the bases, I knew you could tell that we're not going to be here anymore. And again, getting back to the uniforms, if I knew that for a fact, and we knew that all this memorabilia is going to be worth millions, trust me, I live in Tacoma. I stay in Tacoma. I would have packed my car up with everything I could get my hands on. But of course I didn't. But I did milk it. I stayed there and drank as much beer as I could that last night. And anybody else, John Donaldson, anybody who else was there, John Kennedy. I know we just got totally ripped on the beer that we had left. But they were tossing all these uniforms in big bins and taking them out to a big van lines that was on, cooling. And they didn't care about anything being washed. They just threw it in the bins and threw it out in these big van lines to take someplace. So now we're sitting there looking at this whole thing. We said, what the heck is going on? They don't even care about washing these things. And that's what happened. It was, I don't know how many days later, they said, okay, there's no more Seattle Pilots. And they had the van lines, I heard they had them stuck in Utah or someplace until they decide are they going to go back to Tempe for spring training with another team, which they did. We didn't know. And then I got married that winter, so they sent me to San Francisco. So I wasn't a part of it anymore. But yeah, it was a crazy time that one night. Everything was really happening now. It's bankrupt, we're leaving, get out of here. They didn't want us drinking any of their beer. They would have, it was crazy. But we weren't business people. We were naive about a lot of things, I guess you would say. Yeah.
That had to be pretty special, though, returning home and playing that season in the major leagues, just right down the street from where you grew up. Your dad gets to see you for the first time. That's incredible.
It was the best. Like I said, that was the first time I can honestly say, and anytime I've played baseball, that it was fun going to the ballpark because you're going to get a chuckle, or two or three, and it was just fun. Just being we were the mutes of baseball. We were the ones that were cast off, thrown away into a garbage bin, only to be found playing for the Seattle Pilots. I guess that's what you could say, and we felt that way. I mean, we didn't kid ourselves. We're the unwanted mutes. I mean, who's going to want us? So yeah, it's like I said, if you ever run across, or I do, I get the opportunity to run across anybody that Gus Gill, I remember we had a card signing place up in New York a couple of years back, and nobody wanted to leave. Everybody said, I'm up here for the night, I'm flying back wherever they're coming from, and everybody extended their stay 2 or 3 days. Yeah, it was awesome. So that's why I say Seattle Pilots have more meaning, I think, out there for the stuff that I'm getting, people sending the mail, Seattle Pilots stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned your time with the Giants. Your major league career ended with the Giants. The thing I find incredible is your last major league start, you were pinch hit for by Willie Mays. Your last major league game, you replaced Willie Mays in the lineup. That's quite a way to go out.
Well, let me just tell you the story on that. I mean, I keep coming up with these negative stories, but it's really kind of true. We went that spring. We went to Tokyo. We went to Japan, not just Tokyo. We played in various places in Japan in the spring training. So it's cold. It's kind of off to do something like that because we're over there for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they hadn't made the decision on the roster yet. And so we're over there, and I'm new with the team. And the batting coach, Hank Sauer. Yeah, Hank Sauer was our batting coach. And we didn't hit it off at all. So we're playing the Tokyo Giants, They were famous for he's the big slugger with them, and we were playing them, and they had me pinch hit that game against whoever, it doesn't matter, and my teammates told me this story, so it's third hand to me. That this Hank Sauer said, "This guy's not going to hit with us. This guy's not going to do anything with us. I don't know what the heck's going on, why we even got him." So I hit a ball out of the stadium. I mean, I hit a ball as far as I could hit a ball. And it was after that, Ronnie Hunt was my roommate on that trip. Ronnie told me the story. He said, "Man, this guy, what'd you do this guy?" Well, I didn't do anything except for the very first day in Phoenix in spring training, actually, Casa Grande, where we used to do our first couple of weeks or a week, and then we'd go back to Phoenix. He was bad-mouthing day one because I didn't he wanted me to do this and that and change me. He doesn't even know me. And he wanted to do all this stuff. And I'm a hard head anyway. I said, "No, that ain't going to work for me. What you see is what you get." So he really didn't like me. So let's go back. I'm in the service. I'm in the service again, Fort Lewis. And I have to meet the club in Atlanta. Now, I haven't picked up a bat or anything for a month. And Fort Lewis was rainy and cold, so you can't do anything for a month. So I finally, and I was excited to get back to meet the clubs. I'm still new. I think I only had like 12 at bats. And I was hitting 4 from 13 or 12 or something like that. I was okay. I meet the team, and the manager, Charlie Fox, comes up and he said, "Can you play?" I got there 5 minutes before game time. I couldn't wait to get there because of the flight and everything like that. I'm getting to the ballpark as fast as I can. So I get in there, hi, and I get my uniform on, and he comes up, "Can you play?" Because Willie's not feeling good. He's feeling sick. And I said, "Of course, I can play." What are you going to say? Back in those days, you don't do that. You get beat up by your teammates. You don't ever say no. I said, "Of course I can." Struck out 5 times against nothing. I'm not going to embellish it with saying, "Oh, this guy." No, it was nothing. I struck out 5 times and made an error in left field. They had Bobby Bonds in the God, I don't think he was playing right. And I think they had Kenny Henderson. Willie was playing maybe. Yeah, Willie was playing. And I'm playing left. No, he could be playing. What I'm talking. Kenny Henderson was playing center. Bobby was in right. I'm in left. I don't play left field. Not that that's an excuse. So I make an error in left, struck out 5 times, and we get on the plane to go to New York. And I hadn't been back to New York since I left the Yankees. Or played there with Seattle. So I get back to New York, and I'm bombed. I met all my friends down in Manhattan where I used to hang out. I'm bombed. I go to the stadium. Mike McCormick was my roommate. I love Mike. And so he saw it. He said, "Oh man." So I go to the stadium, and I'm trying to recoup in the clubhouse. So the clubhouse in the Shea Stadium is a long ways from the dugout. So I'm watching the team on TV. I go out, and sure enough, Swit, grab a bat. So I grab a bat, the best I know how. And who's pitching? Nolan Ryan. So Nolan Ryan's pitching. Now I can hardly see you, let alone see a baseball. So he gets up. I'm cheating on him. I'm cheating like crazy. So I'm foul. And he's out there in the mound. If I would have saw him more now, he'd probably say, "What the hell is this? Let me just goddamn throw one down and away and get this guy out of here." Whatever. So I strike out. Now that's 6 times in a row. Struck out 5 in Atlanta. Now I'm the 6th guy. And that's pretty much was my leftovers with San Francisco. If I had to do it, I would have said, "No, I can't play. I need at least a few days to take some batting practice, get my legs all limbered up, take some fly balls." And the players today would do that. They would never subject themselves to that. And I know that for a fact because I coached in professional baseball. No way is that going to happen. But so that's my story with San Francisco. And I love the guys. I mean, Willie McCovey, Willie Mays, super good people. Super good people. But yeah, I was only there, what, a month and a half before they, so the story I wanted to finish was, they sent me down to Phoenix. And who do you think's the manager in Phoenix? Hank Sauer. So Hank Sauer's the manager in Phoenix. I go down there, and right away I started hitting home runs. My life is over. My career is over, actually. And I kind of knew that. So I go down there, and I think I hit 16 home runs in 100 and some odd at bats. And George Foster was one of our teammates. George only hit 7. You know, I mean, I went on there with George only hit 7 with 500 at bats. I hit 16 with very few at bats. So I really put a charge into the ball down there, and he hated me. So they finally gave me this big long trophy for leading the team in home runs at the end of the season. And I took that trophy, and I wanted to give it to Hank where the sun don't shine. And then that was my career. That was it. That was it. It was pretty much played. What did I do? I went to Hawaii because it was Hawaii. Not a bad place. The Cleat Boyer was there. So a couple of players Mike McCormick was there. So I said, you know what? I'm done. Let me go to Hawaii, play a little Pacific Coast League ball. We're going to go into Tacoma. We're going to go into places like Seattle because they, not Seattle, but Spokane and places around where I grew up. So not a bad thing. So that was really where I finished up, was Hawaii after all that nonsense. But crazy, man.
Did you enjoy coaching with the White Sox?
I did. I didn't ask for the job. Actually, I up until just recently, I've been coaching. A lot of big leaguers. They are playing in the big leagues today. I've coached down here that come from this. Anthony Rizzo is my last one that pretty much went to the big leagues. I had him since he was in high school. But I've been very fortunate to be down here with facilities to work with these great prospects. And I garnished a name for myself to do that. But with the White Sox, I never asked for it. I was helped coach in FAU, Florida Atlantic University, just north of me in Boca Raton. And the coach came to me because I used to go spend a lot of time in Boca. And he said, Whit, would you help my program? And I did, and I was with him for 2 or 3 years, and I was getting all these players signed off of our team. And it was like magical because players that weren't even on anybody's list in high school coming to my program and getting signed out of my program. So the White Sox took notice of that and asked me if I could fly up to interview for a hitting job. I said, well, I never thought about it, but yeah. So that January, I went up there and flew up, and they drove me in, limoed me in from O'Hare to the ballpark. And unbeknownst to me, they had about 20 kids they had brought in, not because of me, but just brought in general, that they wanted to take a look at. So Kenny Williams said, Whit, welcome to Chicago. Will you come with me? Let's go down to the batting cages. I want you to critique a couple players. So I went down there, and it takes me 5 seconds to critique somebody. You can just tell when they set up, when they start to, get ready, or even when they're swinging. You don't have to sometimes even get to that point. But so I went down there, and after about 2 or 3 batters, he said, all right, let's go upstairs. So we go upstairs in his office, and he had these big screens up there. And he said, okay, look at this guy, which is Ordonia. Look at this guy, was Carlos Lee. And then the other guy he wanted me to look at was a guy by the name of Jeff Leefer, a left-handed first baseman. So I go up there. Sure enough, I give him my spiel because I don't care. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I do, and I'm not looking for a job. You either like what I say or you don't. I wasn't mad. I wasn't trying to fight for this thing. So yes, he says, all right, I want to sign you. So we made our deal, but I said I want 2-year contract, no less than 2, and I want that's my guarantee because I'm giving up a lot just leaving my area for the summer, because I make a lot of money, down. And I was in real estate, which I own a real estate business, but my son kind of runs it now. So that was no problem. So I said, here's what I want. And he gave it to me. So, yeah, it was fun. It was fun, but like with analytics, like you guys are dealing with now, I'm an old school guy and I got it here. I don't need somebody that's never played the game of baseball giving me your 2 cents on this and that. And I'm sorry, first of all, I don't need your job, but you hired me and Kenny Williams loved me, but it was the guys around Kenny that, because they were there for 17, 20 years and never got the job that I got. Everybody said, why not? Why didn't I get this job? Why are you bringing somebody else in? And it was the animosity from the get-go. You could see it. You could smell it. You could feel it. And so sure enough, after I got into 3 years before it finally blew up, because I kept telling these guys, listen, and Kenny and I had a great relationship, but the guys around me that were close to the owner, they had finally, it just came to a blowout where, you know what, it's either them or we got to do something with Steve. And Kenny was honest. He said, hey, I tried to do my best. I said, Kenny, I follow the rules, but I'm not going to put up with that crap. And that was it, pretty much. My coaching career, and when I left, I was getting all kinds of calls, but the grass isn't greener on the other side because it's going to be the same thing. And I didn't need it when I didn't need to do it. So I told him thanks, but no thanks, because and you hear that with a lot of old timers like me. You got, even in the big leagues, they bring notes down for the manager to make this decision. He's not making it himself. I don't know if you know that or not. You should. They don't make these decisions. Hell, you might be bringing the notes down to the dugout. I don't know. But seriously, they don't make these decisions. Mattingly down here for the Marlins. I know that I've been sitting up there. You remember the name Trader Jack?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Trader Jack, I was down there, took my grandson to a game one time this goes a couple years back when Mattingly first got there. But anyway, Trader said, Whit, we're up there, because I don't go to a baseball game unless I get a suite. And that's not just being arrogant. I'm not going to go sit and people throwing beer on me or going stupid. So I'm sitting in his suite, and the Marlins suite is right next to our suite. So he said, Whit, because I've known him forever, since the Kansas City Royal days. So he said, Whit, come on over here. And he said, watch. And he starts talking. And sure enough, he said, watch what happens. Look at the dugout. Sure enough, somebody's coming down the dugout, gives a little note. He said, it's happening all the time. And Trader Jack, it was an old school guy and good. He was a good manager. McKeon, he was a great manager. So he's showing me this, and I took him, I looked at it, and I said, hey, that's happening? He said, Whit, that's happening in baseball all over. That's what's happening now. There is nobody that plays the game that is really managing the game. It's other people. It's people that are very bright-minded, analytics. They can do the computer thing, and they can match it up to the perfection of the owners or whoever agrees to do that.
What did you learn about hitting as a coach that you wish you would have known as a player?
Everything. I mean, like I said, when I was a kid growing up, I wanted to pull everything. I wanted to hit a home run every at bat, not a single, not one little squeaking through the infield, not a little pop up. Oh, I got lucky and the guy couldn't catch it. No, I would have been disappointed. And who am I to say that? But that's the way I was. I'm sorry. I mean, if you could get my records in Lincoln, the few games that we did play, I'd hit 8 or 9 home runs at Heidelberg. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Heidelberg Field. Well, yeah, you are.
Yeah. Oh, that was our home field.
Yeah. So I would hit. I think the most I hit that on high school was 11, but we didn't play any games. We were lucky to get 15 games in because of the weather. You know that. So yeah, I wanted to do, but that's the only reason I got signed. I didn't get signed because I'm a nice guy. I didn't think I was a bad guy, but the coaches thought I was a bad guy. So it was because I could hit home runs. Well, as a hitting guy, no. You learn. My son was the third pick in the '95 draft, okay, with Cleveland Indians. So, and like I said, I teach a lot of kids that have become big league players. And my teachings are just the opposite of pretty much everything that I ever did in the game. I mean, totally opposite. And I believe in the whole field. I believe in staying on top of the ball, not that lift and launch. I believe in the whole field and drive the ball. Let the ball travel a little bit. You don't need to cheat with good. If you got good hands and you got a good setup and a good load up, you don't need to cheat. Let that ball travel. Let it get to you a little bit. Christ, if you see pictures of me like that one I was telling you about the very first at bat in Yankee Stadium, I'm swinging at a ball that only made it 45 feet. So, it was like, what? Come on. No, I would be embarrassed for me today. Seriously. And I don't try to beat myself up. I don't try to beat myself up, but I'm being honest. I would not have liked me as a coach. I'm serious. So, and that's the way I I got grandkids. You're going to hear about them, and hopefully we become friends because I got 2 grandkids. I got one that's, oh God, Chandler Sykes is my daughter's youngest. He's 12 years old, and if I sent you pictures of how he's hitting now and the size that I think he's going to be, you're going to hear about him. And then my son Chad, the one that signed, he was the 3rd pick with Cleveland. He's got his son is 6. Going on, he's turned 7 now this month. So he's 7, and he's a left-handed batter. Chandler's a left-handed batter. So we're getting all these left-handed knockers. We're getting them all groomed up. So you're going to be hearing about them. Yeah.
That's great. Steve, I can't thank you enough for all this time. We really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing some stories. This was so fun.
Well, thank you for making this happen. Thank you a lot.
We really appreciate it. This concludes today's presentation on behalf of Rainier Asphalt and Concrete and the Shanneman Sports Museum of Tacoma, Pierce County. I'd like to thank Steve Whitaker for appearing on today's show. Thank you. And join us for our next edition of Locker Room Chat. Until then, so long.